Welcome to Viking Test Prep. This is the English section, and today we'll be discussing parts of the sentence. Our last lecture we discussed parts of speech. This lecture we'll be talking about parts of sentence. When we're discussing parts of sentence, what we're talking about specifically are subjects, predicates, and their complements. Complements can come in multiple forms, and we'll discuss each in their entirety. But just to remind you, subjects, predicates, and complements are what make up the parts of sentence. Let's begin with complete sentences. All complete sentences consist of both a subject and a predicate. And they can have multiple. They can be compound subjects or compound predicates. If a sentence is missing one of these, you're going to have a sentence fragment. So if you look at these examples here, the lion roared. The lion roared. This would be a complete sentence. The subject, predicate, the lion roared. All of the Chicago Bulls, you got a subject, but where's your predicate? You're missing it. And although Melissa missed the class every day this week, this is missing actually both a subject and a predicate. This is a clause, which we'll talk about in the next lecture. So remember, subject and predicates come together to make a complete sentence. Let's begin with subjects. The main word or word group that the sentence is about is going to be a subject. Now you can have complete subjects or simple subjects. What we're going to deal with in these lectures in terms of ACT prep, we'll be discussing complete subjects. And what I mean by that, if we look at these sentences, I'll highlight this for you. The director created a horrible film. What's the subject of the sentence? Clearly, the director. The next sentence, the director of the multi-award winning film won another award this week. What's the complete subject? You know what we're talking about here for this prep class. It would be the director of the multi-award winning film. The director would be the simple subject, the one thing, and technically this is a prepositional phrase modifying director, but for what we're talking about in terms of complete subjects and complete predicates, we want to take the whole of the subject. Same thing here in the next sentence. The cat and the dog are missing. What are the subjects? What are missing? It's the cat and the dog. That's subjects. Next, we'll deal with predicates. A predicate is the main word or word group that tells something about the subject. What is the subject doing? And like I said before, there can be simple predicates and complete predicates. And for ACT prep, we're dealing with the complete predicate. If we look at these same three example sentences, we'll understand it a little more. The director created a horrible film. The director, clearly the subject. What's the predicate? It's everything else. Created a horrible film. The simple predicate, again, would be just the verb created. But we're talking about the entire predicate. The complete predicate. That's what we're worried about. Next, the director of the multi-award winning film won another award this week. That is the complete predicate. Clear this out here for you a little bit. And then finally, the cat and the dog are missing. Subject, cat and the dog are missing is our predicate. So that's how subjects and predicates come together to make complete sentences. So let's locate the subjects and the predicates in these sentences. Let's practice. Pause the video at this moment and identify any way you'd like which parts of these sentences are the subject and which parts are the predicate. All right, here's how it looks. How'd you do? Let's go through these. The Bears will win the conference this year. Again, the Bears is the subject. Will win the conference this year. So that's your cutoff there. Subject, predicate. Martha and her family long to be together again. That's your cutoff. It's your subject. And there's your predicate. Teddy, who never allows anyone to enter his room, finally led his friends to enter. Again, subject, predicate. The men, women, and children of the city were exiled for not obeying the dictator's orders. Subject, predicate. Again, these people did this thing. That's what we're dealing with. And cowering in the locker room, Mario was afraid to come out. Subject, predicate. Cowering in the locker room. And with modifying Mario, and we'll talk about the verbals later. But subject and predicate. How'd you do? Subject and predicates are probably terms you're pretty familiar with. And you're probably familiar with complements as well, but we probably need to review the most with this. So just to remind you, a complement is a word or word group, again, that complements the meaning of a verb. You have transitive verbs need complements or the sentence is incomplete. So if you look at some examples here, the receiver caught. The receiver, what did they catch? It's incomplete. The receiver caught the ball. They were caught a direct object. That is a complement. The girls seemed. They seemed what? They seemed to be worried about the car. Again, this is the type of complement which we'll discuss here coming up. All right, the first type of complement we will discuss is the direct object. Direct object is a noun, pronoun, or a word group that tells who or what receives the action of the verb or that shows results of the action. And something I use in my class is a little pattern here is subject, verb, direct object. That is a sentence pattern. All right, let's try to identify some direct objects in these simple sentences here. When you're looking for direct objects or any types of complements, it's very important that first you identify the main verb of each sentence, and then from there you can work. Mark threw the ball. The main verb, threw. You got yourself who threw, then you have yourself your subject. Mark threw what or who. If you can answer that, you'll have a direct object. Mark threw what? The ball. It's a direct object. The storm destroyed the crops. Main verb, destroyed. What or who destroyed? The storm. The storm destroyed what or who? The crops. Pretty simple. The Thunder lost the NBA championship. Lost is your verb. Who or what? The Thunder lost who or what? The NBA championship. And they did, unfortunately. Here's a question. This one's a little bit different, but what's your verb? Is kind of both of these, and what does cause? Subject. Smoking does cause what, or who causes cancer? Direct object. Next, we'll deal with indirect objects. An indirect object is a noun, pronoun, or word group that precedes a direct object and tells to whom or to what the action of the verb is done. Important. To whom or to what the action of the verb is done. Again, simple sentence pattern: subject, verb, indirect object, direct object. Let's look at these examples together. The teacher gave Krista an award. Again, first, like I said, what's the main verb? Gave. Who gave? Or what? The teacher. So that's to be your subject. The teacher gave what or who? What did they give? They gave an award. Right? They didn't give Krista. They gave an award. It's your direct object. Now, when you get your direct object and you ask yourself, to whom or to what? Then you'll have yourself an indirect object. So the teacher gave an award to whom or to what? Well, to Krista. And so that is our indirect object. Try the next two by yourself. Pause the video and see if you can figure them out for yourself. All right, let's check to see how you did. The Heat's athletic ability won them the NBA championship. The verb won. What or whom. Again, we're dealing with complete subjects. The Heat's athletic ability. There's subject there. The Heat's athletic ability won what or who? What won an NBA championship? Direct object. It won the NBA championship to whom or to what? To them. Indirect object. Next, the designer showed Matt and Irma the design for the new patio. Main verb, showed. Who or what showed? The designer, subject. The designer showed who or what? Showed them the design for a new patio. Direct object. Showed the design for the new patio to whom or to what? Well, to whom? To these two people, right? Indirect object. So that's how indirect objects work. And you'll notice that you need a direct object to have an indirect object. So if you don't have a direct object, you're not going to have an indirect object. Next, we'll talk about the objective complements. These are sort of rare, and you really need a specific word pattern to appear to see an objective complement, but we'll still go over them. It's a word or word group that helps to complete the meaning of a transitive verb by identifying or modifying the direct object, so it adds information or renames that direct object. And again, only few verbs take these. And here's the sentence pattern. Subject, verb, direct object, object complement. Let's look at a few examples here. In 2008, the nation elected Barack Obama president. So let's continue with our pattern. What's the main verb? Elected. Who or what? Elected. The nation, that's our subject. The nation elected what? They elected Barack Obama. Direct object. Now, is there a word after that that's helping to add information or rename Barack Obama? Well, absolutely there is. President. Right? It's complementing the direct object. It's adding information to the direct object. Pause the video and try the next two examples for yourself. All right, how well did you do? I wrote these up here for a moment. Her mother, subject, called the verb. What'd she call? The room. Direct object. A mess, object complement. Again, calling the room, renaming the room, calling it a mess. Same thing here, renaming the twins with the actual names of the twins. So those are objective complements. Next, we'll be talking about subject complements. So just like the object complement renamed the direct object, the subject complements do the same thing, but to the subject of the sentence. Now, in terms of ACT prep, you really don't need to distinguish too much between a predicate nominative and a predicate adjective. All you really need to know is that it's a subject complement. Still, for the sake of clarity, I will go over both of these. And to be honest, they're pretty simple. So a subject complement is a word or word group in the predicate, again, it's in the predicate, that renames the subject. And it's most often seen with the verb of being, but not always. And you have two types of predicate nominatives. Predicates. A predicate nominative and a predicate adjective. Predicate nominative renames the subject with the noun. That's why you see the nominative, noun. Remember those two. And then a predicate adjective, pretty simply stated, it's going to rename the subject with an adjective. So if you look at these examples here, it'll highlight what I mean. Charlie is the team captain. Verb, who or what? Charlie. Charlie is what? The team captain. Again, it's renaming Charlie. It's giving Charlie a different name. And it's doing so with a noun. Okay? Team captain is a noun. Let's check the next sentence here. A reliable, fuel-efficient car is what we need. This one's a little more tricky, but it's the same thing. Verb, subject, and it's renaming what we need. need really is a noun, right? So what we need. It's renaming the fuel-efficient car, saying it's what we need. Next, the predicate adjective renames it with an adjective. So, Max is crazy. Max, verb is, who is, Max, and crazy. Well, crazy is an adjective, and it's renaming Max. It's calling Max crazy. And it's doing so with an adjective. It's renaming it with an adjective. Next, does this orange taste bitter? And you're renaming orange, right, with bitter. Again, that's an adjective. All of the players seem confident. Players seem confident. Renaming players with confident. Again, adjective. So that's the difference between predicate nominatives and predicate adjectives. And they're both considered subject complements. So remember, subject complements rename or modify the subject of the sentence. Here are a couple example sentences. Why don't you pause the video at this moment and identify for me which one is a predicate nominative and which one is a predicate adjective. Alright, how'd you do? Check your work. They all happen to be predicate nominatives. Some are a little more tricky than others. Still, that's how your paper should look. Okay, to conclude our lecture here, we talked about the parts of sentence in this lecture. We discussed subjects, predicates, and how for the ACT we're really looking for the complete subject and the complete predicate. And we also discussed complements and the types of complements that could appear in a sentence. Direct objects, indirect objects, objective complements, and then subject complements, and also how those could be broken down to being either predicate adjectives or predicate nominatives. But again, as I stated before, in terms of the ACT, just remember subject complements. These are less important, not that they're completely unimportant, but as long as you can identify these types of complements, you will do well. Now, go to the worksheet that is attached to this video and complete it. After you are finished with that worksheet, click on the video that goes with the worksheet, and you can follow along and check your work as I go through each question with you and discuss why the answers are what they are.